Welcome to Futureproof Business. Smart strategies, real insights, and tools to lead and scale in a fast-changing world. Let's future-proof your success.
Welcome to the Futureproof Business Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. Today I have the honor of interviewing Eric Mangold. Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me.
Can you share a little bit about yourself with the audience, like who you are, what you do?
Yeah, my name is Eric Mangold. I'm the founder of Argosy Wealth Management. It's a wealth management firm located in New Jersey. We're about 15 miles outside of New York City. I've had a financial planning practice for about 13 years now. And in the last 3 I've hung my own shingle out as Argosy Wealth Management. A lot of our focus was with helping physicians, doctors, healthcare professionals, and we can maybe touch on that. But those folks have always said that money is a taboo topic to them. And for a lot of physicians, they get out of med school and they're feeling behind because they've been in school for so long and haven't had a chance to save, or maybe they have a lot of student loans to pay back. And also they're not given the guidance they need. So that's where the focus has been. But it's something that being a financial advisor is something that I've wanted to do since college. And it certainly took some twists and turns along the way getting here, but I'm certainly happy to where things have ended up.
So can you maybe share with us, like, what inspired you to go into the financial industry?
When I was in college, I was a business major. And then when I was a junior, I went to University of Rhode Island, and the college started a personal finance major, which was for people that thought they might want to be financial advisors. And the curriculum was very new. And so one of the things they wanted us to do was intern, which is great. I interned with a local financial advisor in Rhode Island, and he was awesome. And not only a great person, but he was very open and welcoming. And he allowed me, and his clients allowed me, to just be a fly in the wall and just sit in on some meetings. And I was just watching the engagement of how his clients came to them with a lot of questions and a lot of concerns. And you could see sometimes the concerns on their face. And he was able to talk them through their concerns and how to get them on a track to help achieve their goals. And I'm like, this is awesome. I go, this is what you do every single day? And he said, that's the majority of what I do. It's meeting people and helping them reach their financial goals. And it just was, for the internship, it was life-changing. So as part of that, it was learning the curriculum. And then when I graduated, it was okay. You get out of college and you're 23, 24 and had some student loan debt. And I'm thinking, okay, find a great place to go and work your way up and to be a financial advisor. So I went and worked for Merrill Lynch. I was in the retirement planning department at Merrill Lynch, was there for 3 years, really networking and trying to meeting as many people as I could. And then after 3 years, I met a branch director near Center City, Philadelphia, which is near where I grew up. And he said, okay, I'm the guy that you want to talk to. I'm 55, I'm successful. How are you as a 24-year-old kid going to get in front of me? And he's like, you can choose to blow smoke or you can choose to tell me honestly. So I said, why don't I give you a little both? I said, I imagine your training program's good. I said, I imagine there's things that I'm going to be able to learn from the program at Merrill that'll help me say the right things so I can get in front of you. And what he basically said was that, Eric, I think you're not ready because you don't know anything and you don't know anyone. And he goes, that's a tough combination to start off in this business. So he said, I could park you in a room with a phone book and you could cold call for 90, 100 hours a week. And he said, probably in 3 months, I'm probably firing you because you're not going to be pulling anybody in as customers. So what I'd like you to do is round out your skill set and go meet people and go learn. So I went and worked for Mike Bloomberg's company, Bloomberg LP, in the sales department selling their financial technology software. And I was on every single trading floor you can imagine, bond trading floors, stock trading floors, commodity trading floors, and meeting with traders and analysts and economists and investment bankers, and basically showing them how to do their job better, how to make better decisions so they can ultimately make more money. And after 7 years that I was there, which is a fantastic place, I went and worked for a startup. The startup opportunity was a little too good to pass up, but it wasn't exciting. I wasn't feeling fulfilled at all. So I ended up hiring a career coach, and the career coach was, again, life-changing. And she was basically helping me. She said, whatever happened to financial planning? Your career's kind of off track. How do we get it back on track? And I said, I don't know. At the time I was 38 and about ready to have my first kid with my wife. And we were moving to. And I'm like, that's a lot to load onto the plate. And she's, I don't know if you missed your window, but why don't we find out? Because what would it be like to live with regret? If you were to fast forward the clock and you don't try this 10 years from now, you're always going to regret it. I was like, ooh, good question. So I reached out to my network and I interviewed probably about 8 or 9 different financial advisory firms. And finally I met with a guy in Manhattan, and I just networked my way to him and was working my way up the interview chain and was one of the senior directors there. And I walk in and he's got a picture of him and his son playing hockey. And I played hockey all my life. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. So we're talking about playing hockey for 45 minutes. And listen, he goes, I'd love to hire you, but our firm doesn't take career changers. We're just not built for it. We're great at taking people from the 7th floor to the 10th floor, but we're not good at getting people from the 1st to the 7th. So what I want you to do is go talk to a friend of mine down at another firm. And I said, thank you so much for doing that. I said, I question though, but aren't you sending me to the competition? It's a very competitive industry. He said, yeah, one might think that, but you seem like a good person. You seem like you're trustworthy. You would do good things to your clients. And our industry needs more people that can be trusted, because it only takes one Bernie Madoff for everyone to think we're all a bunch of scumbags, which I thought was really awesome for him to do. So that's when I went, and that's where I started. I started actually as working at Guardian Life Insurance Company. So that's how things started, or progressed, I guess I should say.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's a really interesting story there. So what made you decide to have an aha moment to focus just working with physicians?
About 6 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to a friend of hers. She wasn't a physician, but her friend is a neurosurgeon. And she said, can you just talk to him? He's got a lot of questions. And I said, just sit down and talk with him. We went in and talked, and he's like, I don't know if you can really help me. I'm like, Doc, I don't know if I can help you either. Let's have the conversation. So he pulled out, the first thing he said, the first question I have is, he pulled out this 401k statement. And he said, Eric, I just have one question. When do I have to pay this back? And I'm like, come again? Pay what back? He goes, when do I have to pay this 401k thing back? I have to pay this back, right? And I'm like, no, this is your money for your retirement that you saved. And I'm talking to a neurosurgeon. This guy is brilliant and operating on people's brains, and just didn't have the financial acumen. So I was like, we should talk. So I redid everything for him. I set up his college plans for his kids. Actually, one of the things he was doing was he was putting a pool in. And I said, okay, do you have an umbrella policy? And he said, no, what's that? Now, I don't do homeowners and auto insurance, but I know enough about it to know when somebody needs certain things. And I'm like, listen, Doc, not a drop of water goes into that pool before you talk to your home and auto agent, get an umbrella policy. But when I fast forward a couple of weeks, when we had all my recommendations and all my plans to execute, I said, I've got some paperwork I need you to sign. And Eric, I go away tomorrow. I go away in 2 days for a 2-week vacation, then a week in conference. He'll get together when I get back. I'm like, and this is the days before DocuSign. I said, I've sent out some documents and they have a kind of an expiration time on them. I'm like, do you mind if I just grab you for 90 seconds? All it is to sign to implement what we've discussed. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'm in the OR tomorrow. And I said, well, can I come in and meet with you right before you scrub in? He goes, absolutely. Tell my surgical coordinator to let you in. So that morning I'm at the OR about 6:15, and I'm the only bald dude in a suit carrying a briefcase, and everybody else is in scrubs. And I walk in, and he's like, okay, Eric, what do you need? I'm like, I just need you to sign here and here. And he signs and everything. And his surgical team, they're all in scrubs and everything. And they're like, who's that guy? And he's, oh, guys, this is my new financial advisor. He's done everything for me. You guys got to talk to this guy. So I frequently call it the best meeting of my life, because in about 10 minutes, I walked out with not only the execution plan signed for my doctor that we had agreed upon, but I walked out with 10 referrals. And everybody, can you call me in a day after we're out of the operating room? And 7 of them became clients. And the 3, a couple of them moved away, but it was a great day. So then fast forward a little bit, I was working with this neurosurgeon for so long, and he was introducing me to a lot of people. I said, I'm really thinking about specializing and working with you, because I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to what your colleagues are saying. You're all saying a lot of the same stuff. You're talking about how you never got this guidance in med school or residency. And then you start your practice and you're massively busy focusing on your patients. Your financial health takes a back burner. And he goes, listen, if you're going to start specializing in physicians, how can I help? So he helped me get it. I'd done some speaking with some of the associations he was part of. I've spoken at his facility a number of times doing educational courses. So it really has evolved from there, and learning about what makes doctors tick and talking their talk and understanding, they're massively smart, have high demands, and everybody's taking a little bit in their time. And it's okay, how can you earn that trust and then try to help them? Because there's people that are taking care of people, trying to make sick people healthy. They should have the financial guidance that we all get or deserve too.
So earlier on, you mentioned about doing things that you're passionate about. Why are you so excited and passionate about wealth management for people in the healthcare industry and others?
The first thing is everybody, I love meeting new people and the stories. We have a saying, everybody's their own unique snowflake. And everybody is so, I love listening to new stories. I love hearing success stories about my clients when, they're getting ready to retire, or their kids are getting into college, or they're buying a home or vacation, whatever it may be. I love hearing the stories. I had a client that literally got back from an Asian trip last Thursday, and they're leaving for Paris today. It's just, I love hearing the stories. But so one part of that is that every day is different. Every single day is different. No financial plan is the same as the next. And it's fun listening to these stories and hear. And I also, over the time, financial planning is really a long-term relationship. And this is certainly not a requirement, but I've gotten very close to a lot of my clients. A lot of them I call very close friends, just because we started out together and we've been together for many years. And so I love that interaction. I love that meeting new people and also trying to help them go from point A to their financial summit. It's really rewarding.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So can we explain to our audience, how is your approach different than traditional financial advisors?
The approach that I think is, a lot of financial advisors are going to talk about how they're comprehensive, or that's a very big buzzword right now, comprehensive financial planning or organic financial planning. And basically what that means is that they focus on every area of someone's financial life. Now, that's a great saying, but is it really done and executed on? And what I found is typically not. Most financial advisors that I have met focus only on those things that are going to put money in their pocket. And I focus on some of those things as well. But for example, I meet clients all the time that don't have their estate plan done, don't have their wills done. And the next question is, okay, well, can we get that done? And do you know a good trusted estate attorney that you can talk to? And most times people say, no, I don't know anybody. I have a really deep bench that I've cultivated and built over the last 13 years. So I have a number of resources that I can refer people to, whether it's trusted estate attorneys, business attorneys, mortgage brokers, private bankers, pretty much you name it. I tell clients, CPAs, I tell clients all the time, I said, if life throws you a curveball, financial curveball, I want to be your first call that you make. Because even though I might not be able to help, maybe it's not an area of my expertise, I'm probably going to know somebody that I can refer you to. Not that I just know, somebody that I know well, that I'd be comfortable sending you to. So when it comes back to that whole comprehensive financial planning, are we really addressing every area of the client's balance sheet, not just the areas that put money in my pocket? And that's really what I want to focus on, is making sure we address all those areas.
So what is myths people have about money and wealth management? Do you like to dispel?
So the first thing they think of is that all we do is investing. And yeah, it's a big part of it. But it's a part of it. And I call it the wealth management menu of 18 different topics or focus areas that have been studied and surveyed of what's really most important to people. And yeah, investment management is on there too, but so is life insurance planning. So is long-term care planning. So is disability insurance planning, estate planning, tax planning. Most people think that tax planning is something that a CPA does. A CPA really focuses on tax preparation. And listen, a great CPA is a vital component to your financial team, but a CPA focuses on tax preparation, preparing those tax returns from last year and the year before. And how can they save taxes looking backwards, right? We look at tax planning, which is how can we save $1 in taxes today, tomorrow, and in the future? And over the course of a relationship with a client, we'll tend to save our clients hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in taxes based upon our tax planning. So that's some of the misnomers is that, yeah, we do focus on investment management, but retirement planning, estate planning, tax planning, insurance planning, all those components all round out a financial strategy. So we can't just focus on one thing. That's what really makes it comprehensive.
You also mentioned very briefly about people like Bernie Madoff and others that kind of put like a dent in trusting financial others and people like yourself. How could people like trust, like all these incidents happened that was blasted all over the news and everybody's heard about it? How can people find somebody, a financial advisor, wealth management advisor that they can really trust? And what are the things that they should be looking for?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Before Bernie Madoff, if I were to print out a new application for an IRA, it'd be about this thick, right? After Bernie Madoff, it's now this thick if you were to print the whole thing out for all the checks and balances. And it's a shame. The first thing is that one of the things that happened there is that so many of the checks and balances at Bernie Madoff, they didn't pass muster. Like a lot of things there didn't meet the sniff test. The first thing is that people were writing checks right to Bernie Madoff. And when clients are writing checks to me, for me to invest their assets and manage their assets, they don't write a check to me. They don't write a check to Argosy Wealth Management even. They write the check to the custodian where the finances are, the assets are actually held, which is Fidelity. They write a check to Fidelity for the benefit of John Doe. And that was one of the checks and balances that Madoff didn't pass. But I think really for people, they need to do their research. They certainly can go to brokercheck.org and look at the history of any financial advisor. Do they have any complaints against them? If so, what were the complaints? Because not all complaints are, sometimes people just want to complain about somebody and maybe that's warranted, maybe it's not, I don't know, but there's two sides to every story. But also I think a big part of it, Daniel, is when people meet a new financial advisor, what is the connection? What is the connection? What are they feeling? If that internal alarm goes off and it's just not a good feeling, then they should run for the hills. How transparent is that financial advisor? And the first thing that I always talk about with my clients is our fees. This is a business. It's not a non-for-profit business, but I am very transparent about everywhere that I get paid because they should know that our advisors being that way, being that upfront. And then what does it all entail? I tell clients that when they're coming on board with me, that not only it's great that I'm there with you when the times are great, but it's imperative that I'm there when the times are bad. During COVID, I was on the phone weekly with clients that were scared about the market direction. And they needed to hear from me to know that we were on top of things. This is kind of a blip in the radar. We're watching things. We're not making a lot of moves right now because the situation is so volatile. But they needed to hear that comforting voice that says, okay, somebody's watching out for me. And I think when people are looking for an advisor, those are the things you need to do your research. Do you feel that you can connect with this advisor on a very trusting level? And then also as things evolve, as the plan evolves, do you feel good where you're at? Or is that advisor, are they checking in with you to make sure that you're comfortable? Are we still on track? Has the plan changed? So a lot of those things go into it, but I think a lot of it comes down to that internal alarm.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned about how things were evolving, like with technology, with things like Google, ChatGPT. And some people think that they can be self-sufficient when it comes to making their own financial decisions. Oh, well, I'll just Google like a winning stock or winning mutual fund or ask ChatGPT, what should I be doing? What is the difference between working with wealth management advisors such as yourself versus just Googling or using ChatGPT for getting like a quick answer? Is there any benefit to working with a wealth management company such as yours?
There's definitely a benefit. I'm a little biased, of course, but it was interesting. About a year and a half ago, a reporter, I've been quoted in a number of publications. I'm usually quoted a couple times a month in different publications, but a reporter reached out to me about a year and a half ago and she said, can you give me your comments on what I asked ChatGPT? I asked ChatGPT 10 different questions that I would ask a financial advisor. And can you tell me what you think about its answers? Now here, from a personal standpoint, a self-sufficiency standpoint, right? Or self-preservation standpoint, I wanted the answers that ChatGPT gave to be garbage and be able to tear into them. And I'm like, you know what? ChatGPT made some nice answers. But here's the thing, is that ChatGPT could work for some people, right? But nothing is customized to that individual. And when you start getting, life starts getting complicated and you start building wealth and growing wealth and trying to protect wealth, then things get a little more complicated than I think AI is able to handle, certainly at this point. And a lot of the interaction that I have with my clients is this kind of face-to-face, or virtual these days a lot, but this face-to-face of, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how the plan is evolving. And it's that human touch that ChatGPT is never going to have. And also, frankly, I have a lot of clients, especially physicians, that simply don't have the time to devote to their own financial health. And they basically said, I have people that say, listen, I'd love to be able to do this on my own. I just don't have time. I've got my work. I've got my medical practice. I've got my kids, my wife, everything going on at home. And especially for physicians these days, when insurance reimbursements are going up and their expenses are going, or insurance reimbursements are going down and their expenses are going up and they're not making as much money as they used to, they're really concerned. They just don't have the time. And they want somebody to be their quarterback or wingman. And that's where I step in.
Talking about when time, especially like during COVID, things were really volatile. What should like people do when, I think now also, I think like the stock market's been very volatile with like the political conditions and things like what's going on internationally. Do you think that people should just stay put when things get volatile, or how do people deal with all this volatility that's happening?
Great question. I think really what it comes is try not to make emotional decisions regarding your finances. When you think about it, when you're making decisions based solely on emotion, how good are those decisions anyway? Not just in finance, but in life, right? When I'm talking like during COVID or even earlier this year when the stock market was really bouncy due to the tariff war, I said, okay, we're not going to make emotional decisions. Okay, we're not going to make emotional decisions about our finances. And because what emotional decisions really mean in my world is you're trying to do what's called timing the market. What timing the market is, you're trying to time when the market's going to go down to move all of your investments into cash. And then you're going to try to time the market again to when you're going to get back into your investments. The problem with that is that you don't have to make just one great decision, which is when to get out, but you have to make two, which is when to get back in. So making that first decision is very challenging of when to get out. But then making that second decision of when to get back in makes the odds of success so low. And they've done study on this, and they show the average investor is one that underperforms the average stock market returns because of the fact they've made emotional decisions. They've taken their money out when they should have kept it in. COVID was a great educator of this. The financial crisis was a great educator of this. The tariff war was a great educator of this. The S&P 500 is up on the year so far. In March, people were terrified because the S&P was down. It's up on the year right now. And I'm not saying every single time the market goes down, people should just take it on the chin, but it's okay. Let's understand where we are, where the market is, and how is it impacting their overall financial plan? Is it going to derail something, or is it something that we're going to manage over time to see if we need to make any adjustments? And more times than not, we're going to stay the course because a lot of this market volatility does work itself out in the long run.
So is there any like a first financial moves that somebody has a residency in medicine, or they're like early on in their physician career that they should be making?
I have a kind of the first five list. The first five lists are the first five moves we need to do to start someone on a path to financial health. And the first one is getting organized. Okay, know what you own, your assets, know what you owe, which are your liabilities, know your money coming in the door and where it goes out in expenses and taxes. Okay, get organized is step number one. Two is protect what you have. Okay, making sure that you have those pieces in place to make sure that when risk happens, like a car accident or a fire, right, it can't undo your overall financial plan. So step one, get organized. Step two, protect what you have, build the moat around your castle. Okay, protect your castle. Step three is to save at least 15% of your income. If you're starting at 2%, just work your way up to saving 4% and 6%, up to 15%. Okay. Then step four is going to have 3 to 6 months of savings in our emergency fund. Okay. So that's if something happens, if life throws us a curveball, we can go to the emergency fund instead of going to credit cards. Okay. And then step 5 is work on paying down all bad debt, like things like credit card debt. And if you notice, one of the things I didn't talk about was rates of return, because if we accomplish those first 5 steps, then we're setting ourselves up with a good foundation to build, grow, and protect wealth. But if we haven't addressed those first 5 steps and we're just focusing on rate of return, then we can have risk get involved. We can have debt get involved, interest rates get involved. We can have a lot of different things that could derail the overall financial plan. So those are the first 5 steps that I make with clients before we do anything else. And people sometimes say, Eric, I want to do this on investment, this with investment, this with investment. And I go through the first 5 steps and I'm like, we only have a couple of $1,000s in your emergency fund. We got to boost that up to have 3 to 6 months. I say 6 months worth of savings in your investment, worth of expenses in your emergency fund. If it's not there, then we boost that up before we do anything else. So the first 5 are the first 5 things that I do with all my clients, is focus on those things, see what are done, see what's not done, and then execute on those before we start getting into I like to say, the more fun stuff like investing and rate of return.
So how do you help physicians reduce stress and take their financial health back into control?
So physicians, I have one of my funniest clients. She is brilliant and super sarcastic, so I love her. She said, when we talk about her finances, she stops me and she's like, Erica, just stop. And I'm like, what's the matter? She's like, I hate talking about my finances. I hate talking about my investment. I just don't have the acumen for it. And I said, you're probably one of the smartest people that I know. I said, you walk into any room and the average IQ goes up by 50 points. I was like, and she's like, you know what? That very well maybe, but I'd rather have my eyeballs tattooed than talk about my finances. And it's interesting with physicians, that's a common theme. They generally don't like talking about money. It really is the ultimate taboo topic. So when I come in, I give them that sense of comfort, is that, okay, not only is it okay for this to be the ultimate taboo topic, but now I'm going to be, and just use the Top Gun reference, I'm going to be your wingman to guide you through this process, because they all know that they have financial goals and financial dreams, but if they're not on some type of strategy, it's very hard for them to get there. And I'm helping them really manage that and to take the uncertainty out of a lot of things. So a lot of times they just call me like, hey, we good to go? And I'm like, yeah, we've been looking at things and nothing's been derailed and we're still on track. So for physicians, a lot of times it's basically being their wingman, knowing they have someone to call at any time if they have a concern about their finances.
So I emphasize a lot about wealth protection as much as growth. Why is that so important?
I always say that if risk can get into your house, if risk can get across the moat and start destroying your castle, it doesn't matter what rate of return you get on your investments. Let's take that doctor's example, for example, that we're talking about, that was building the pool and didn't have the right liability and umbrella coverage for his home. And again, I'm not licensed for those kind of insurance products, but I know a lot about them. And let's say that he didn't have all those things and someone got into an accident at his pool. And we hear about it, unfortunately, small kids crawling into the pool and not surviving. It's tragic, right? But you also want to make sure that your house is insulated from those types of risks from a liability perspective, and making sure that you have your liability taken care of. Not to mention, we hear all the time about these celebrities, Prince, James Gandolfini, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley. I think Joan Rivers might be on that list too. They didn't have their estate plans done. They said James Gandolfini would have saved his family, his heirs, tens of millions of dollars if he had his estate plan done. And most people say, yeah, I'm not James Gandolfini. I don't have tens of millions of dollars. I said, that very well may be true, but it's even more important, because even if you don't have that kind of wealth, to make sure you have your estate plan set up properly, you know that your family is taken care of in the event you fall down an elevator shaft. So my firm does take a protection first mentality, is we focus on the protective area of the balance sheet to make sure that loss can't invade.
So how do you tailor different risk management strategies depending on what stage of life they're in?
So that's a really interesting point, because that's exactly how we do it. It's going to be the type of thing where we're going to be looking at their estate plan. Sometimes the estate plan just needs updating. People did their wills when they first had their kids, and now their kids are in their mid-20s, and chances are it needs a little bit of updating, right? Do we need to start doing some tax sheltering work? putting some assets into trust. That typically is for people later on in life. We have a saying that no retirement plan is complete without long-term care insurance planning, because as people get older, we talk about this all the time. People are living longer in the United States because we're taking better care of ourselves, the advances in medicine. But if a healthy 65-year-old couple today has something like a 70% chance they're going to need some type of long-term care coverage, right? Have a long-term care need. So are people going to self-insure themselves? Are they going to acquire a long-term care insurance strategy? What are those types of things? So it really depends upon, you're right, it depends upon the life cycle that people are in to make sure that, hey, we're trying to insulate again to make sure that loss doesn't come onto their balance sheet.
How do you help like clients invest without them being overwhelmed? Because just listen to you, it seems like there's a lot of like technical jargon with all these things. You said, and a lot of people are not experts, liability, estate planning, and all these different things and different types of investing, volatility and crypto and AI. It can get overwhelming for some people really fast.
Yeah. I think that's the type of thing too. When I go to get my oil changed, I understand what they're doing. But that's why I pay the experts to do it, because usually when they're under the hood or under the car, they're looking for other things too. Hey, you know what? Maybe your brakes need redoing, or your wheels need realigning. I could probably change my oil myself, but that's also why I pay the experts to do it. And it's a simplified example, but it's the same type of thing, because I have clients to me, especially now. I mean, it's always been this way, isn't everybody's always chasing that new shiny object and also what it really means is, what is the home run ball that they're trying to hit? You as a Yankee fan, who's the Aaron Judge trying to hit the home run ball of, meaning they're going to invest in something today and be a millionaire overnight. And what we're trying to do from a financial planning perspective is hit a lot of singles, a lot of doubles, the occasional triple, and the occasional home run. But if we're hitting mostly singles and doubles for our clients with their investments, then we're going to be able to really help them accomplish and meet and achieve their financial goals versus always chasing that shiny object. It used to be the shiny object was ETFs, then it was hedge funds, then it was crypto. Now it might be direct indexing now. Like there's a lot of different things. And a lot of times I'll have clients come to me and like, Eric, I've got this investment opportunity that somebody came to me that I just heard about. What do you think? And we'll have a conversation. I had a physician client of mine who's an orthopedic surgeon, and one of his peers came to him. Actually, they went to medical school together, and he's an oncologist. And he said, listen, we're working on this drug. It's in a certain stage of approval through the FDA. We're looking for investors. And he came to me. He said, what do you think? So we did that. He goes, Eric, I'm not an oncologist. He says, I do orthopedics. He says, I don't know oncology drugs. Is this a good investment? I'm like, listen, I don't know if it's a good investment. Your partner probably knows way more than I do because that's his space. But let's talk about what this investment could mean to you. And we talked about a comfortable amount that he could invest in. And should the investment turn south, it wouldn't derail his overall retirement plan. So it was that kind of consultation and second set of ears that I provided in that case, not to say, hey, listen, that's not a terrible investment, but what it's going to mean for him. So that's really where the one-on-one kind of consultation comes in of, is this a good investment? Are you going to be able to, is it comfortable? Or is it something that when we start asking some of the questions about due diligence on the investment and like, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm like, let's find out the answers to these questions before you put any dollars into this. So again, it's a collaboration to, again, help them make the right financial moves.
Did you have an investing philosophy for long-term success?
My investment philosophy is going to be, let's create a strategy together that is aimed to help you grow as much wealth as you possibly can. Let's make sure that we're putting the right pieces in place to protect that wealth. And along the way, let's make sure we have a tax mitigation strategy to make sure that you're not paying 1 cent more in taxes than you really should be. And it resonates with people like, okay, we're going to grow wealth. We're going to protect wealth. We're going to pay less taxes. It sounds pretty good.
So what are some like common mistakes that people make when they're investing their own money?
I think a lot of it is being emotional. Again, being emotional. And not so much and we talked about market timing, getting out and getting into the markets a second ago. But what I've seen a lot of times is people getting emotional on maybe a stock that they bought on their own, and maybe it's gone up and then it started going down. And it's tough for them to say, okay, it's time to get out of this stock, because it's such an emotional ride it's such a euphoric ride when you buy a stock and it goes up. It's really hard sometimes when the stock starts going down to sell it. There's such much of that emotional attachment to that stock. So again, what we're trying to do is I act as a unemotional, unbiased set of ears to help people make good decisions. And sometimes, like, maybe it's time to sell. Maybe it's time to get rid of something, even though I know it was great for you. As things change, you want to make sure you're still making the right moves. Sometimes that means selling something that made you feel really good a couple of months ago.
So how do you determine like what's the right portfolio when you take on like a new client?
It really is all unique to the client. It's unique to what their risk tolerance is, how much risk can they stomach, how much risk do they want to stomach, where they are in life, how we're investing, what we're investing in. There's different portfolios that I use for different clients. So it's a tailor-made program, but it is tailor-made based upon where somebody is in their life, and also what they're trying to accomplish. And there is a component of how much we are investing. I don't have a specific minimum investment. It's one of the things I don't particularly care for in my business, my industry. You'll hear a lot. I get this asked of me a lot of, Eric, what's your minimum? And what that means is that when clients come to me, they think that they have to give me a check for a certain dollar amount to invest before I'll give them any one-on-one advice. And I don't care for that strategy because, one, it turns every single person into a dollar sign. And I'm working with people. I want to work with humans. I'm not turning people into dollar signs. But also I focus, like I mentioned, a lot of my practice is made up of medical professionals, healthcare professionals. And I work with a lot of residents who didn't have a lot of money out of the gates and have grown with me. And now they're making significant amount of income. And we're doing a lot of things for their financial strategies. But had I said to them when they were residents, they didn't meet my minimum, I would have turned away not only potential great clients, but also some pretty nice people too. So I don't look at people as dollar signs the way a lot of people in my industry do.
So how do you deal with clients that, like you mentioned before, sometimes they're either like a little bit embarrassed, a little bit shy, like they're for asking for help, or they don't like asking questions. They feel like they ask questions, they know it sounds stupid, so they don't ask questions. How do you deal with people like that?
It really comes down to listening and talking about the fact that it's okay. Again, working in the with medical professionals and doctors, I understand some things about anatomy, but I'm certainly not a doctor. And Dr. Google, as they'll say, can only solve very minimal things. So it's the same type of thing. You're going to an expert to help you get from point A to point B. I had a shoulder injury earlier this year, and I went to an orthopedic surgeon and I wanted to get fixed. And he shared with me a lot about what he was going to do, a lot of the things he said he was going to do, and pieces of the muscles and tendons he was going to fix. I didn't recognize what he was talking about, but I went to that expert. I wanted him to get me from point A to point B, from where I was to the injury to back to being active in what I'd like to enjoy doing. And financial planning is the same type of thing. And because physicians have that taboo topic of money, what I recently have done is launched a podcast where I bring on physicians and I ask them to talk about their relationship with money. And the philosophy there, Daniel, is kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats. If physicians are sharing their stories about their comfort or discomfort with finances and money, then other physicians who may not be comfortable in their own financial situation will be more comfortable to reach out to someone like me to say, hey, I think you might be able to help me. Because not everybody is an expert in everything. It's impossible. So it's knowing when to be able to be comfortable in your own skin to ask for help. And it's really coming at all of my new client interactions with a philosophy of empathy and compassion. Where they are today is where they are today. And how can I do my best work to get them from point A to point B, and also help them give them the guidance along the way that they need to feel comfortable and to feel that, okay, everything that I'm doing for them.
So in your opinion, what separates people who are financially successful versus the ones who aren't?
It's a lot of falling into financial pitfalls and not getting being able to get out. I hear frequently from clients about how hard it is to start saving, especially for doctors who are just getting out of med school and residency and just trying to start their practice. And some of the biggest things that I try to stress is to get saving. It's never too late to start saving for your own retirement, and to start saving and start saving early. And the earlier you save, it's going to have a much more dramatic impact on your overall ability to build wealth than your rate of return. And it's helping people understand that. And even people that are saving 2% or 3% of their income, I'm coaching them to help them save more. And when they're saving more, I'm also coaching them on how it's not going to take a bite out of their lifestyle. They're still going to be able to go on vacation with their kids. They're still going to be able to go out to dinner and go to the movies, but they're also going to be saving for their own retirement as well.
So what kind of transformation do your clients typically experience when working with your company?
I would say the two words are going to be confidence and comfort. And it's almost, okay, we're going to take that deep breath of that. Now we're on the right track to help achieve or help us get to our financial goals. And would that be putting our kids through college, buying a home, second home, or retiring comfortably? It's having that comfort and confidence to know that they're on the right track. Again, sometimes life throws curveballs, and I'm going to be there to see if that curveball is going to derail them from achieving their financial goals, or is it going to be something that is just a little bit of a blip in the radar? That's really what I try to focus on, is giving my clients that comfort and giving them that confidence to know, you know what, we were stressed about it before, stressed about our finances. Are we going to be able to retire? What's retirement going to look like? And then after they're working with me, it's okay, these are the things that we're doing to make sure that we can retire, and we're going to be able to live life to the fullest and hopefully not have to worry about money at all.
So can you maybe share a story of how you worked with a client and they were stressed down or think their financial situation was a mess, you're able to help turn it around?
Yeah, there are quite a few of them, but I think one of them is really when times are bad. Again, I need to be there. And I've been with clients at funerals, through clients that had spouses with cancer, Alzheimer's, and it's really making sure that you're there. I had a client, super nice client, and she was going through some job changes, and she was a partner at her firm, and there was a lot of volatility at that firm. And she was there at that firm for 20 years, had a great run, but was not being treated very well. And our conversations were like, okay, Eric, I've got a lot of invested in this company, a lot of financial investments, a lot of emotional investments over 20 years. And I don't know if I want to leave. And we talked about and she's in her 60s, and we talked about how leaving, what that would look like to her overall retirement, and how if she went to a new firm, maybe not making as much money, how it still wouldn't derail her overall plan. And there was a couple conversations that we had over the course of a month when things were really getting bad at her old firm, and she really realized that she needed to leave. That we talked about 10% of their retirement plan, and then 90% about family and weekends, and she's big into boxing. So we're talking about her stress relief. But she said it's been so comforting to know that that you care, that you're there for me, not only just to talk about our investments, but when things are not going that well. And I said, well, that's really what I need to do. A couple of weeks ago on a Friday, I got a notification from a client who was very senior at her firm, and she got laid off, and she was devastated by it. And it was a Friday that I got the notification. I immediately sent her flowers and just said, hey, here's the greener pastures, because I think she needed that little pick me up. And then we talked that following week and talked about, hey, the layoff is not something was on her radar, but the way we had structured her financial plan, her retirement plan, because she's going to retire next year, she is pretty watertight. And she knew that even though she was getting laid off, it wasn't something that was going to tell her that, hey, she actually didn't need to go out and find a job. She's going to find one that's going to be something that she wants to do versus something that she needs to do. And so she just felt so much more comfortable, that knowing, frankly, that I was there and making sure Eric, all the things we talked about, it's all going to get derailed. And I'm like, let's look at it. Let's look at it together. And we did. And she realized, okay, I'm pretty good, aren't I? I'm like, yeah, you're great. You're great. Even if you never work another day in your life, you're just going to be fine. But it's, again, life threw her that curveball. It wasn't a great curveball. She was very upset. But then as time passed, she realized, the path that we had built for her, the plan that we built for her was going to continue to work for her and make sure that, she's going to be able to retire in comfort and confidently.
So if somebody had a question about our conversation today, or they're interested in working with you, what are the best ways they can reach out to you for a consultation?
Head over to my website. It's emangold, emangold.com. That's the best way to get me. There's a way to book a meeting with me. There's some freebies there. I've got I have videos of the month that talk about what happened in the market last month and what to expect in the coming month. Freebie downloads like ebooks, a retirement planning ebook, an estate planning ebook for physicians, the top 5 things you can do to improve your financial health. So a lot of freebies there. So emangold.com is the best way to get a hold of me, or on LinkedIn as well.
Can you explain to people, like, what does the process look like if they book like a consultation with you?
First call is usually about 15 or 20 minutes. And that's really to see if we're the right fit. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and it's a mutual collaboration. Sometimes I'm not the best fit. And sometimes the potential client might not be the best right fit. So it's that first 15 to 20 minutes, we're really going to discover, okay, are we going to be able to work together? Do we trust, and professionally respect each other? And then if we decide together to move on, then the first meeting is usually a data collection meeting where I get information on their assets, their liabilities, but also what could be as important is, what are their goals? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? What are the things that are keeping them up at night, and the threats that they're worried about? And that could be anything. That's planning for their kids' college, or maybe they're taking care of parents that are getting old and need a little extra assistance. What are those threats? And then the second meeting after the data collection meeting is really an analysis meeting, presenting to them my analysis and showing to them my recommendations. And then the third meeting is really an execution meeting. Here's all the recommendations. Here's the list of things we need to do to execute, to make the financial plan, put it in place. And then how do we move forward?
Great. Eric, it's been really great talking with you. Do you have any last final words or anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up our conversation today?
I always say to my clients and to potential people that are thinking about hiring a financial advisor is, the Boy Scouts say the time to have the map is before you enter the woods. And I think that really is applicable to your own financial plan. And the sooner you jump on it, the better.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about your experiences, giving us a little bit about your knowledge and a peek into your world. I really appreciate that. It was definitely really interesting. And unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we kind of have to end the show for today. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I enjoyed it.